G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. It's good to be back in the hot seat doing another preview for some footy this weekend. I'll tell you what, Kat, it was gone for 2 weeks and it felt like a lifetime. So good to be back in action.
I know, it's very exciting. And what's more exciting is these teams on paper and what we're about to talk about, because we've made a little bit of content about it already. But, I mean, this first game, it is any rugby league fans' dream to see some of these players go head-to-head. So I'm very excited. Yeah,
and I think that obviously the Kangaroos very short favourites on Neds, but I think the Tongan team, I think it's a lot better than what the odds are suggesting. I think they put up a real fight in this one. I think the Kangaroos win, but I think it will be pretty close. Today's episode, guys, brought to you by Neds. You've obviously followed along with all my tips throughout the season. We got very close last week on the Prime Minister's 13. Shout out to Fletcher Sharp. Dropped the ball late. Would have got us home. One of my favourites, the Cessnock Goanna up there. So make sure you follow along in the Neds app, guys. Keep up to date with all of our bets for this weekend. I've got a good one lined up for this weekend for you guys to follow on my profile there. Shall we get stuck into that first game, Kat? Where are we? What's doing?
Let's do it. So the Kangaroos and Tonga will face each other at Suncorp Stadium tomorrow night, Friday at 8:10 p.m.
Yeah, really interesting. Obviously, the Kangaroos squad came out the other day. We haven't really had a chance to have a good look through it yet. I've had a look through it, but not on the podcast. Obviously, a couple of debutants there, sort of Coates, Lomax. Congratulations to them. Big one for me, Kat, which is crazy. Tom Trbojevic playing his first game for the Kangaroos since 2018.
Wow.
Just injuries and everything have just kept him out of that side. So very excited to see Tommy go around. Obviously, Mitch Moses, his first game in quite some time. I believe his last game was Origin 3. And Mal Meninga's just picked him straight off the bat. So I absolutely love to see that. He gets to be partnered up with Tommy Dearden as well. A talking point for me, Kangaroos are short favourites, as they probably should be. But I do look at this side, and you've got Dearden and Mitch Moses, who have never played a game of football together. It's a new combination. Even you have a look at Mitch Moses and Harry Grant. That's your hooker halfback combination. They've never played a game together. Mitch Moses, it's been 3 months since he played a game of footy. Missing Payne Haas as well. I think the Kangaroos deserve to be favourites, but I do think there is a conversation for Tonga putting up a really good fight in this one, Kat.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few conversations with people since this squad was announced and since they've been in camp. They're absolutely stacked. And as individuals, it's hard to look past how competitive they're going to be against this Australia side. And I think a lot to be said for the fact that a lot of them play together. We know how good they are. I'm very excited about this Tonga side.
I think another interesting talking point with the Kangaroos that I noticed is, obviously State of Origin. The Blues won this year. It was an incredible effort. Came from 1-0 down. Mitch Moses was obviously front and centre of that. I also thought in game 2 and game 3, I thought it was really interesting, Kat. Cam Murray came back into the side and he was the 13. Isaiah Yeo came off the bench. Interesting to see them name Cam Murray on an edge in this game and Isaiah Yeo in jersey 13. It sort of goes against what I thought was so successful in the Origin arena this year. I would say it's got a little bit to do with Isaiah Yeo being named the Australian captain. Congratulations to him, well deserved. Maybe the optics of having him on the bench were a little bit weird. But it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if Cam Murray, if he comes on and he ends up playing if Cam Murray eventually moves into that 13 role at some point. I reckon it could be the first 20 minutes or so they stay as named and then they change. Obviously on the bench you got Mitch Barnett and Hudson Young, 2 guys that can play on the edge. Ruben Cotter actually played on the edge the last time the Kangaroos played. So I do think you will see, some subtle changing throughout this side, throughout the game. But I do think it is interesting that, for me, I thought the New South Wales Blues found a winning formula with using Isaiah Yeo as a middle and having Cam Murray as their 13. And the halfback that night was Mitch Moses. So I thought they would have gone for that same formula. And maybe they still will. Maybe this is just on paper, but it's interesting.
I think you might have hit the nail on the head with what Mal might be thinking to do with this side, because it was interesting having Gerbo, the captain of the Blues side, and then such little game time ruffled some feathers. So
true, yeah.
There is a lot to be said for having a captain that's out there for the whole game with you, but I don't know. It's an interesting point for sure.
Yeah, it's one that I sort of expected Cam Murray to be the 13, but in saying that I probably thought James Tedesco was going to be in the side and still the captain. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with Cam Murray and Isaiah Yeo on the same side, but I just think, and for that reason, I also think is Mal sort of shifting around with a winning combination that that's where I think Tonga's a little bit of a sniff in this one. I think they're more of a chance than what people are giving them credit for. The other big talking point out of the Kangaroos side, like you look at the bench, Mitch Barnett, I thought he was tremendous this year. Ruben Cotter's obviously an automatic in this side. Hudson Young, share a little story with you guys, which I don't even know if I told you, Kat, but during the season, during the State of Origin series, Hudson Young, when he got dropped from, I think it was for game 2, he got dropped. And he got dropped because Cam Murray became available. And Cam Murray's, he's the next captain of the New South Wales Blues, in my opinion, be right up there, a vice captain or whatever. So I think Hudson Young got dropped because other guys became available. And I messaged Hudson at the time, and I've met him a few times down in Canberra and at games and whatnot. He's a really nice guy. I've got a lot of time for him. I just said, oh, mate, I feel sorry for you. And of course, because I have to talk about it on shows and whatnot, I feel really sorry for Hudson because I don't think he deserved to get dropped. I think him and Cam McInnes, they just got moved out of the team because other guys became available. And I messaged Hudson. I just said, unlucky, mate. I think it's just unlucky how it played out. Don't think you deserve to get dropped. And he said to me, devastated. I'll be back bigger and better. I'm coming for green and gold. And now to see him in the side, I think that's unreal. I absolutely love that. Very good guy, Hudson Young. He's got a couple of screws loose, but you have to have a couple of screws loose to make it in this game and play the way that he does. I'm so stoked to see him in this side. So the other thing that I want to talk about on the bench, though, and you know what? In previous years, when the Kangaroos are playing a Tonga, you probably wouldn't see them pick their absolute best side. I think the landscape of International Rugby League has changed in that you can't pick your second best side. There's some countries in the world that you probably could, but I think after Tonga beat them a couple of years ago and they've got the forward pack that they do, I don't think the Kangaroos can afford to do that. So I think it's very interesting that Ben Hunt not on the bench. He's in the extended squad. Matt Burton in jersey 14. You would assume that means that Harry Grant will play the entire 80 minutes. Congratulations to Matt Burton. Deserves his spot. He's been incredible this year. But if I was picking this side, I think I still would have gone for Ben Hunt to have that two-prong attack out of hooker. An interesting little talking point there.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at, we were talking just recently about what Ben Hunt's done on the Origin stage.
Yep.
At number 9, and I think I've for years just associated him with that hooker position, and I know he can play a very good halfback as well, but it's really interesting to see him on the extended here. Do you think he may be the plan later on in the tournament as well?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I reckon this is the Kangaroos' best side they can possibly pick, outside of, in my opinion, probably jersey 14. So, and, I don't think Matt Burton's a bad pick, but I reckon when they play the Kiwis, I'm not sure if that's next week or the week after, but I reckon there's every chance that Ben Hunt comes into the team for that game.
Yeah.
But I also look at other guys, and quite often if you get picked in one of these tournaments, Kat, you'll quite often get an opportunity against someone. Because it's such a short competition. I'm not sure Lindsay Smith, Reece Robson, Bradman Best, if they don't have any injuries, I'm not sure if any of these guys, I'm not sure who you could take out of the side for Lindsay Smith. I don't think you're going to take Barnett or Cotter, and I think Hudson Young plays a role being able to play on the edge. Bradman Best, unless they get an injury, I can't probably see them taking out any of those.
I think you're right. It's the best depth you could possibly have in the instance of injury, but not the first choice.
Yeah, and usually, with all due respect to all the other sides, usually in these competitions you have another team in the comp that isn't at the level of everyone else, and you can sort of play the other guys, on Kangaroos tours, my God, they used to call them the Kangaroos and the Emus would be these guys on the bench that they'd get to play some of the easier games and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think you're starting to sort of lose that from the international calendar realistically. And this is only, Tonga and New Zealand, Samoa's obviously playing against England, so they're not in the comp as well. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. But I just think Ben Hunt's a little bit hard done by there, but it wouldn't surprise me if he is jersey 14 for the next game. Let's have a look at this Tongan side. And we sort of did our predicted side the other day. I did my predicted side, and pretty much all as I expected. I do think that Kohler's been very unlucky to miss the side, but Lehigh, Daniel Tupu, Suli, Alamotti, Sione Katoa, I can't really push back on any of those. I floated the idea of having Paul Alamotti come off the bench and use him as a bit of an impact just to get Kohler into the side. But, after what he did on grand final night, it's very hard to deny Paul Alamotti a centre spot. What a spot for Tonga to be in that a guy like Kohler can't get into their side. He was the automatic fullback 12 months ago. Now he can't get into the back line. It's a good spot for them to be in.
It is. We're such Kohler fans here.
Yeah, we
love Kohler. I
Yeah.
think he's such a workhorse. He just puts so much heart into it, and he's incredibly I always wonder too if there's a personality play in some of this, because I have heard that he's extremely calm and collected and potentially
Reserved.
quite reserved.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that can actually play into sometimes that selection, because they'll pick like the louder character over you. But who knows? I mean, I'm spitballing, but it's a great squad regardless. And
Because, I mean, like, he's ended up in the same spot at Manly too now. He's sort of, the music stops and he's without a chair all of a sudden. And they're two very good backlines, obviously, but it is an interesting talking point.
Definitely.
The thing that I'm most excited about by far and away is the halfback, Isaiah Katoa, though. Tonga has always been a gun forward pack, flashy outside backs, but they got no fucking direction whatsoever. And it just ruins the whole thing. They've got no direction. Now they've got a halfback who, you know, I've said for a while, I think he's going to be a genuine superstar in our game. I think he's going to be a turning point as far as international rugby league. I think that Jerome Luai has started to turn the page with Samoa. I think Katoa will be the guy.
He's that guy for Tonga.
I think he turns international rugby league on its head. So the back line is tremendous. You got Lola here who jumps in at 5'8", and for years, Kat, like when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, like you'd get to these tests and you go, wow, Tonga's back line, their forward pack's unreal, but Lola here's playing halfback and he's not a ball player. He's just a guy that fits the best for them. Him playing next to a genuine halfback, I actually don't mind it. I'm keen to see him go around. He's always entertaining. Do you remember him at all?
I do know the name. I can't picture him out on the field doing anything.
He went to the Super League a couple of years ago. He played Warriors. He played for the Tigers.
Huddersfield.
He's over at Huddersfield. Yeah. He's a very talented player. He can just sort of he does a lot of things in very odd ways, just very unorthodox in how he does things. And he's been the halfback or the main ball player for years. And he's not Batman. No. He's Robin. And Batman's arrived,
he's the perfect sidekick.
Yeah.
Can I ask who, because I can't remember, who did you have at 5'8"?
I had him. He's the best option. There's no denying that he's the best option. But he's always needed, this country's always needed a genuine halfback, and now they've finally found one. And I think Katoa and Jerome Luai, I think they can really pave a way for young Polynesian ball players who, you know, they dominate the juniors, then you see them get into first grade and they've tended in history to get a little bit lost. Now these guys have paved the way to say, no, you're the guys. You're the real fucking deal. You can lead these teams.
And owning that halfback position.
100%. Yeah, and it's not like, and you know, quite often, Kate, you see guys that get picked for Tonga who are hookers in the NRL or hookers in Super League, they play halfback. This is a first choice halfback for an NRL side, and he would be a first choice halfback in a number of NRL sides. Same as Jerome Luai for Samoa. It's really exciting. I love to see
definitely.
it. I mean, you even have a look at, we'll get to them soon, but you have a look at Fiji over the last years. Like their halfback a lot of the time has been Appy, even though he's a hooker, just because he's the best option there. But the tide's starting to turn. We spoke about it last week on the show. This forward pack is off its head. It's terrifying.
It's so terrifying.
Addin Fanua-Blake in the front row. He's the skipper. You got Felice Kofusi, who started the front row. I had him on my bench. I understand them going for him in the front row. He's going to absolutely belt people in this game. The old head there, he'll be sensational. Honestly, the edge back rowers, Olakau'atu and Eli Katoa, there's only been one guy that's been better than both of them this year, and it's been Angus Crichton. But if you have a look at finals, which is when it counts, Eli Katoa was the best second row in rugby league, probably not named Liam Martin. So it couldn't get much more damaging. If I'm Tom Dearden or if I'm Mitch Moses defending on this edge, I'm going, fucking miss me with that. No thanks. I don't know who I'd rather mark out of these two. They are two absolute nightmares.
Neither.
Yeah, it just makes it so tough. And if I'm, a young Isaiah Katoa coming to this team, to know I've got one of these guys next to me is just enormous. And honestly, I didn't have him in my starting 13 for Tonga. I had him on my bench, but they've gone with another experienced campaigner, Jason Taumalolo. And the more I think about it, the more I kind of like what they've done here. I would have had Keon there, but now you get to bring Keon on after 20 minutes, and instead of just grinding himself in the ground for 80, he can play enormous 60 and go massive. You look at the bench, Sitili Tupouniua, Taniela Paseka, Coleman Tungi,
they've got some serious bodies in their
size,
on their
punch,
bench.
leg speed, offloads. They just bring everything. And then the biggest wild card of all is Sonny Luke. Now, you guys that listen to this podcast religiously, you know how high I was on Sonny Luke heading into last season. I'll be honest with you, he disappointed me a lot. I thought he'd absolutely explode at Penrith once Appy left. He is a very, very talented guy, The thing with Sonny is if you're going to build a team around, like if you're going to have him in your team, you've sort of got to build your attack around him. I'm really excited to see how he goes behind this forward pack, playing a little bit more unorthodox. I think he'll only play 20, 25 minutes in this game, but he could be the key. He could make Tonga explode, or he could sink them a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how they utilise him. But I think he is the best option out of all these guys that they've got to play that role. So Havili, he'll start in jersey 9, and once Sonny Luke comes on, Havili becomes an extra option to play in the 13 role. But I really do hope that they just hand the keys to Isaiah Katoa here. I hope he's just given the keys to the castle and they just say, this is your side, bro. This is your country. Do your thing, because I'm so confident he'll do well. He's young. There's no denying that, but
I think you're also right. The confidence that forward pack should bring him.
Exactly right. He's never played behind a pack like this.
He's obviously played with Kafusi, but I'm really excited to see this dynamic and how it all comes together.
The other thing I love as well, Tonga, obviously coached by Christian Wolf, who's the coach of the Dolphins too. Yeah. So a lot of these boys that will be representing the Dolphins next season, but in particular Isaiah Katoa. Interesting, he's obviously signed Fine Fuiaki for next season from the Dolphins. He hasn't made the side, so I thought that would have been a good opportunity for Wolf to get a bit of game time in him, a bit of confidence, but he's done the right thing and picked the best side he possibly can. So
against Australia, I think you've got to, right?
Yeah, for sure, but you only get 2, maybe 3 games. You don't have all the opportunities in the world. So once again, I just think credit to him for making the right call, and I can't wait to see how Isaiah Katoa goes in this one. Guys, from a betting perspective in this game, I have got my same game multi up on my profile. You can follow along with it there. As I said, I think the Kangaroos win this game, but I do think it will be a little bit closer than what people are expecting. Anytime try scorers I like in this one, Hamiso and Turbo, $1.70 and $1.90. The one from Tonga I like, as I said, I want to see them hand the keys to Isaiah Katoa. He will play down the left edge for them. Daniel Tupu, a top 10 try scorer of all time. You're getting $2.30 for him. I like the value there for Toops to cross. This is going to be a cracker on Friday night. The Kangaroos to win, but I think the 17.5 start, I think it's just too much. What's the second game, Kat? We've got the Saturday night clash. What do we got?
We do. This one is between Fiji and PNG, and it, as you mentioned, it is 7:10 p.m. It's in Suva, Fiji. Ooh, and cool. Let's dive into this Fiji side first.
How good. So Fiji side, obviously Taruva, he jumps in at fullback. He's the one that I like as a try scorer in this one with Neds. You're getting about $2.40 there for him. I think the value is very, very good. He's obviously played on the wing for the Panthers the last few years, but just way too talented. I think fullback is his better position, and some of his games he's played for Fiji over the years, they have been incredibly impressive. So I love him there. Other guys worth mentioning in this side, and you have a look at them. Their halves pairing are Kevin Aguama, a guy that is a outside back normally, and Kurt Donahue, who's sort of a utility up at the Dolphins, can play a bit of hooker, a bit of 13, can play in the halves, but he's not, for me, I don't look at him and go, you're an out-and-out halfback, but he's the best guy to fit that jersey. That's probably still the issue I have with this Fiji side. They lack the halves and the direction, especially without Appy playing. It's a huge, huge loss. But some of the forwards they've got, some good players there. You've obviously got the captain, Tui Kamakamitha from the Melbourne Storm, very talented, but the big one, Viliami Kikau on the left edge. He needs to have a huge influence on this game. We got your mate in the second row, Kat. Nice guy.
Nice guy. What a legend. Very
in
happy
all seriousness, a very good player. He was very impressive in the preseason.
Yeah.
I'm keen to see him go around at the Canterbury Bulldogs. I think that, I remember watching him in the preseason, Kat, and thinking, Canterbury's pack is so light. This guy's going to play a role at some point. But it was the opposite. They were so good that he just couldn't get a sniff in the side.
Yeah. He went down to Cup for the majority of the season and gave it a good slog. But I think he was given, room to improve with Cam. But it's great to see him representing Fiji, and hopefully that provides more opportunity next season as well.
Now, my big watch in this game, and it's going to be a bit of a boring talking point for you guys, but Tane Milne's in jersey 15, played centre for the South Sydney Rabbitohs this year. I have always thought the best way to utilise Tane is to put him on your bench, put him in the forwards for 25 minutes. It's enough time for Tane to have an impact on a game, but it's not enough time for Tane to have a brain explosion and do something wild. I know Tane, he's a great fella. He's a lunatic, though. I love everything about him. And if I had him in my football side, he would never leave my bench. He's a very handy centre to have when you have injuries and whatnot, but I love him as a middle forward. Big, rangy, good leg speed. He's got a fantastic offload. Last few years, he's always deceptively very high on the offload count. I think he's getting a lot better with selecting his moments. I'd be putting him on after about 20 minutes once it all sort of calms down a little bit, and then just run him through the middle. Don't even give Tane a position. Just let him run out there and just let him do his fucking thing. Just get out of his way and just support him when he runs the football. If I was Wayne Bennett, it's how I'd be using him next year. I'd have him in jersey 17. I'd have my middle forwards. I'd have a 14 utility, and then I've had Tane, and I would just let the dog off the leash occasionally and say, go fucking wild. Don't give away a penalty. Don't get sent from the field. Just do your thing, Tane. And I think whenever he plays for Fiji, he's always a very good performer there. So keep an eye on Tane. When he gets to PNG, funnily enough, one of his best mates, Nene McDonald, he's lining up at fullback. Now, I believe he was in the English Super League Dream Team, I think they call it. Their best side over there for the season. So congratulations to Nene, another guy. He has been incredibly talented for a long time. Just hasn't been able to put it all together over a long period of time. But Nene McDonald at fullback, definitely one to watch there. Roderick Ty, always like him. He'll be playing centre for them. And Robert Derby, he's up there at the North Queensland Cowboys. Hasn't played as much first grade as what he should have. But a guy that I think when you look at this Cowboys squad for next year, there's a lot of key players leaving. Your Val Holmes, your Kyle Felts, these sort of guys. And everyone's talking about Labert, Purdue, as they should be. Robert Derby's a little smoky. Just keep an eye on him. I'm confident he does well in this game. Very talented guy. The big strength of the PNG Kummels, though, it is their halves. You got Lockie Lamb. He's obviously been playing over there in the Super League, doing good things. Was in the NRL a couple of years ago. Very talented. I think he's destined to return to the rugby league. A genuine halfback, which is a huge advantage. And Kyle Labert, who... I mean, every single time, it's sort of been a running thing in rugby league for about 6 years now, Kat, that every time PNG plays, the storyline at the end of it is, why isn't Kyle Labert playing first grade? It is wild. You saw his brother Zach. He was playing for the Cowboys at the start of the season, absolutely killed it. Kyle's an absolute weapon. For me, I lean towards PNG just because of these two ball players, two very, very talented guys who will make a splash. As far as the forwards go, honestly, one of my favourite players in World Rugby League, and it kills me, absolutely kills me that he's over in the Super League. I have no idea why. Reece Martin, the captain of PNG, a goal-kicking back rower, came through the Roosters system, ended up at the Canterbury Bulldogs, was a super coach star, a goal kicker, a try scorer, an offloader. He's been over there in the Super League for way too long. He's obviously enjoying himself over there because he keeps re-signing, but geez, I would love to see an NRL team have a crack at him. And I think that if there is a PNG team to be put into the NRL in a few years' time, I would absolutely love to see Reece Martin be the very first signing and be the captain. He's 31 years of age now, though, so this team would have to come along pretty quickly for it to happen. But if PNG were to get into the comp in the next 2 to 3 years and he's still available, he would be my first signing and he'd probably be my captain of that side coming into the NRL. Very, very talented guy. Other guys there, obviously from the Gold Coast Titans, you've got Jacob Arlick, he'll play in the front row. I think he's more of an edge forward, but a guy that I really like. He's got ability. And Jeremiah Simbican, who's up there from Queensland, a very talented kid that people talk about quite a bit from up there. They're very high on him. I haven't seen as much of him as what I would like, but when you hear the whispers about him and how people talk about him, one to watch. And, of course, Jack de Belin, I always forget he plays for PNG. He'll be in there in jersey 13, getting through a stack of work through the middle. Very important part of this side. So a very good side for PNG. I sort of lean towards them just because of their halves. I lean towards them slightly, but there's a good chance that this will be the better game of the week. I think this will be close. PNG, the outsiders. I don't know. The halves and their kicking game, I lean towards them. But it's obviously in Fiji. It makes it pretty tough. Which way are you leaning, Kat? Fiji, PNG? What are you thinking?
Oh, I mean, I'm more across the performance of the Fiji players. Like I'm more aware of them because of the roles that they play in the NRL. So I think I naturally go Fiji.
Yep.
And you said home side advantage too. I mean, they've got Kikau in there too, and like that, it's hard to look past how intimidating someone like that's going to be.
Yep.
But I'll take your word for it. If you think that half pairing is more impressive, then I'm keen to see it in action.
Yeah, I think when you have a look at the betting odds on Neds, as I said, Taruva, he's coming to $2.20 now. He's part of our multi of the week on Neds. You can catch it on our profile. I really like him. I think if Fiji are to win, the main ball player, as much as he's not a halfback, it will be Kurt Donohoe from the Dolphins. Yeah. We did some content with him during the year. Really funny kid. He's all time. He's at about $4 to score. He's a ball runner. He loves taking the line on. He'd be my little smoky there. I was going to give you a tip of my boy Tane Milne, but he's pretty short at about $3.50, so not overly appealing there. Reece Reece Martin at $3.80. Honestly, this is probably a game that I'm just going to sit back and enjoy. I think you're going to get two good footy sides here, two aggressive footy sides that are just going to absolutely throw the kitchen sink at each other. So I'm going to sit back and enjoy this one. I'm going to go PNG in the upset, and I'm going to go the Kangaroos to win the first game. I can buy about 14 to 16 points, something along that line.
Oh, very tight.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think they'll compete. I think the Kangaroos might just come over the top a little bit late.
Ooh, okay.
Is my tip.
I like it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to tip Tonga for an upset.
Tonga for an upset.
Because
I like it.
I put it out on my story for some predictions, and there were a number of people saying Tonga undefeated for the championships.
I'm telling you, they're being disrespected. I don't think they'll win, but they are being disrespected.
I'm incredibly biased too, because some of my favourite players in the NRL are on this Tongan side. But I'm gonna go Tonga to beat the Kangaroos in an upset, if you want to call it that.
Huge upset. One of the great upsets.
I'm going to give a similar score prediction to you, only that it will be Tonga that makes it. And I'm going to tip Fiji to win against PNG.
Like it. So you're just doing the complete opposite of what I say.
Literally, yeah.
Of course you do.
Why not? And I also did just want to highlight too that the women are playing Pacific Championships this weekend also. So the Jillaroos will be playing PNG at 6:05. That one's at Suncorp. So it'll be before the men's game. And Tonga are playing Samoa. This one is on Saturday at 5 p.m.
I think the Jillaroos, they are very, very short price favourites. Unfortunately, I think they will probably blow PNG away up there. I just think they'll be too good, especially playing over here. That's going to be very, very tough for the Orchard.
Yeah.
So give me the Jillaroos in that one. The other one, I have no idea. I'm going to lean with my boy Sowie. He's obviously coaching Samoa. So I'm going to lean towards Samoa.
I like that you've gone Samoa, because I'm going to go for Tonga.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
There's so many good names in this Tongan side. There's a Hopawade in there. When there's a Hopawade, you can't look past that. You've obviously got Natasha Penatani too, who is an emerging talent as well, the sister of Tiana. There's some big names in there.
Yeah, Tegan's playing too. Tegan Dimmick.
Yeah, Tegan Dimmick as well. So I'm very, very keen for this one.
I think I'm gonna lean towards Samoa. I think Sowie gets them up for this one. You got the Titans fullback there. You've got Destiny Brill's playing too. Yeah, I'm going to take Samoa to win this one. Okay. I think that might be a bit of an upset, but I actually don't have odds for this game. So keen to see how it plays out. So you're going Tonga?
I'm going Tonga.
I'm going Samoa. Absolutely love that. Guys, thanks for joining us once again here on the Rugby League Guru podcast. Today's episode brought to you by Neds. Jump onto the Neds app, follow along with my profile and our bets throughout the Pacific Championships. We'll have one of these episodes each and every Thursday for the rest of the Pacific Championships, brought to you by Neds. Once again, go and download the app and check out all of our bets this weekend.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.